Welcome to the Modern Agile Show, episode 14. I'm here with my friend David Bland, who is also a neighbor. You live in Pleasanton, I believe?
Pleasant Hill, yeah.
Pleasant Hill. And it's great to be here with you, David. Lots to talk about, so let's get started.
Yes, let's.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's so awesome to be here. I'm a fan of just overall what you're doing and also the show, so thanks.
Likewise as well. I know you just had a quote in Eric Ries's book, right?
In the Startup Way, yes.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
It was surprising. I didn't know it was in there. I was reading through the book and
you saw your name.
This quote looks very familiar, and then I realized it's mine, and it was referenced. So that was really cool of him.
What was he quoting? What did you say?
Well, I wrote this really popular article a couple of years ago on what I've learned about lean startup, and I said essentially, look, when you're going through an MVP, you need to be optimized for learning, not scaling, because you might just throw it away. You're just trying to learn. And the essence of that's what it was. There's more to the quote, but that's pretty much the.
Yeah.
And the other part is, you might determine what's minimal, but the customer decides if it's viable. And I think
I love that.
That's tough too to reconcile sometimes.
So the minimum viable product is all about learning, and it's more about and the customer determines if it's viable or not. That's the learning you're going to get.
Yeah, and the customer just determines quality. So I think that's just it's just hard for us to reconcile sometimes. That in the end, when we think about our feedback loops, the feedback loop to the customer and back is really, really important.
And we want to optimize it if we can.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. So I know you've been working with a lot of different companies, and not just in the software space, but also in companies that actually make hardware devices and things, right? Can you tell us more about your some stories or something?
Yeah, I've been working. It's funny. A lot of my clients are not software. I would not consider software first companies. Automotive, consumer packaged goods. Working with paint companies, all kinds of different companies, fashion companies, service companies, and it's really been amazing. I have so much fun doing it because you say, okay, these principles really do apply in so many different contexts, and the practices might look a little different, but the idea of we have to test our value proposition. Are we solving a real problem? Is there a fit? I mean, it kind of happen. It's not just a software specific issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Fast feedback loops and testing assumptions and validating. All the lean startup ideas actually apply to a lot of things.
Yeah. So like probably one of the bigger ones that's in Eric's book, and also this book, this conference is Toyota. And so to go into Toyota and help teach them lean is surreal. But also just, being able to say, okay, well, the cycle time on a car is, let's say, 7 years. Think how much your phone has changed in 7 years, right? So how do you build something that when you put it on the market is usable or provides value or fits into the customer, like the person's life? There's so many interesting challenges when you think about going from lean manufacturing to kind of lean startup, lean product development. That's just one example, but there are countless.
So you're helping them see ways to visualize cycle time for these products and reduce it.
Yeah. So in the past, I've helped them kind of like look at how do we test our ideas really quickly in the market with customers before we kind of build out and scale it and make it.
Yeah. Excellent. Right.
So yeah.
You can do that with a car, or do you mean parts of the car, or?
Yeah, I mean it's really interesting. I feel like that company is shifting into more mobility and not a car company.
I see.
So when you think of Toyota as a mobility company,
yes,
then it's not just about the cars. It's about getting people from A to B. It's helping them be mobile in general.
Right.
So this is a really fascinating trend I see in the industry of car companies being more mobility.
Yes.
If you're a paint company, you're about more color. If you're a toothpaste company, you're more about oral hygiene and mouth health. Like you're not just about the thing. You're about much, much more than that.
So Modern Agile's principle of experiment and learn rapidly, very applicable, I imagine, then.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be able to go out in the market and test and gather evidence and then basically use that evidence to help make a better decision.
Right.
So if the slower you do that, it's just tough to make informed decisions quickly because if the feedback loop's really, really slow.
Right. If you assume that your strategy for mobility is perfect and that turns out, you do a lot of work and turns out that's not really what the customer wanted, you're kind of in a bad place.
Yeah, and it's the same for a startup, right? So if I'm a startup, I raise a bunch of money and I build an app, and it's the wrong thing and nobody cared about it, and I blew my money. Like you can't pivot if you're broke.
Yeah.
Like if you're bankrupt, there's no pivoting.
No. You're out of business. You're broke. Yeah. Interesting. And so, what about safety? Make safety a prerequisite. Does that apply to your work?
It does in that I'm trying to help people. I know we have this conversation about failure and failing fast, but I think it's really much more about the learning fast and then taking that learning and moving it into action. So when you think about things like, okay, well, I'm wanting something new. If I fail, I'll be fired. Or if I pivot, I'm fired. Like you can't have a culture you can't set that precedent. So it's not just leadership saying, okay, you have permission to do this, but it's also the actions that they follow up on. So I end up doing a lot of leadership coaching with helping leaders lead with questions and check their biases at the door when we come in for a funding decision.
Wow.
But you can't, you're never going to be able to make this a repeatable process if you fire people because they worked on something that failed.
Right.
So safety is super important, I feel.
Oh, so you're basically working with the leaders to help them create a culture of safety is what I'm hearing.
Yes. So I'm working on, my mission is sort of to change the way how corporations do innovation.
Yeah.
So internal funding with a board and making investment decisions kind of like a VC would. So when you think about that, so you come to me with something and you ran some tests and you say, hey, I want to pivot this direction, or maybe there's nothing there at all, and I say, hey, I actually don't want it. I don't recommend we go forward with this because there's no fit. You can't reprimand that person, or you can't have a mark against them, right? There has to be something else that they can work on, or some other thing that's in the hopper, right? So I find that it's really important because leaders, if they came in and they force people to go forward and persevere and blindly ignore the data, it's like, why am I experimenting in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? Is it safe to experiment?
Well, people don't like to fail either, so if you can help them not fail, it's great. But you're saying basically study the data too, so you know, like, are you going in the right direction?
Yeah. So like, it's really interesting to come back to Toyota and the end-on cord, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of companies I know, if you pull that cord, you'd be fired, right? Or if you pull that cord, your manager comes down and berates you. It doesn't help you problem solve.
Why did you stop the line?
Yeah. So it was a big epiphany for me when I was at a client and I'm, preaching. It wasn't Toyota. I was preaching, hey, we have an and-on cord. We can stop the line. And they said, I'm not stopping the line. I'm not pulling that cord. It's like, whoa, that's a completely new. I just assumed that was something we could do without being fired, but it's not a correct assumption.
Well, the mentality there, I think, comes down to like sort of revenue pressure. Like if your thought is that, boy, these cars have to keep going, and if we stop the line, revenue is affected. We're going to lose whatever amount of money per hour, per minute, whatever it is, and there's tremendous fear around that. Whereas Toyota flipped it and said, no, in fact, quality is so important that, ultimately pulling that cord is going to lead to more revenue, and we're going to have more market dominance. But so to me, when we take the and-on cord and bring it into knowledge work or even innovation work that you're doing, it's the mentality of, is it okay to stop, reflect, improve? Will that be a positive impact on finances or a negative?
Yeah, so I was in a meeting with the team. We had ran all these tests in the market and generated evidence on this new software product. And I'm sitting in front of the SVP out here in the Bay Area, and we're saying, I'm actually recommending you don't go forward with this because there's nothing there. Like the platforms don't support what we're trying to do. Maybe if they come around, it'll be good. And I was waiting. There was a tense moment where I was like, okay, let's see how he responds. And he was like, great, I'm glad we didn't invest $20 million in this idea. We're going to work on other things.
Wow.
And so,
unbelievable.
How can we get more?
You saved him $20 million.
So how can we get more leaders to act in that manner rather than, well, I still think it's a good idea, build it anyway. And it's like, no, don't waste all that money. Like, give yourself more options to make investment
That's
decisions.
true value you're delivering there. By not spending all that money, you're focused when you come in on how to deliver value, even if that means not wasting money.
Yes. So how do you kill your bad ideas quickly?
How do you kill your bad ideas quickly? I love that. Kill your babies. We think this is an awesome idea, and then to find out, in fact, it's not. The market won't allow it. Are there exceptions to that? Are there places where you say, no, my intuition is right, the data is wrong, and then push forward and find you are hitting a successful?
There are moments, and that's why I like having a time box of, okay, we have 12 weeks, or we have, in the amount of time that we are going to put forth in doing different kinds of experiments to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say you did push advertising to who you thought your customer segment was, and nobody came to your landing page and nobody cared. That would be easy to give up. Okay,
right.
So I had a team like that recently, and then
let me insert. I think sure. Airbnb launched 3 times. Was it Airbnb? I think it was Airbnb. I'm pretty sure it was Airbnb. They said they launched 3 times.
So this team, completely downtrodden, I said, wait, let's not give up yet. Where would people go to seek a solution to this problem? And they're like, oh, well, they go to Google. They type in what they're looking for. Like, I'm trying to do this. And I was like, well, what's the keyword trend analysis on that? And we said, there are hundreds of thousands of people doing this search. Let's do the same thing, but pop it up when they're searching. So search only. And our conversion rate was like 40%. So we went from almost 0%.
Wait, sorry, you lost me there. So you changed what in the search?
So the way you do advertising, right? You could push and just do display advertising. Yeah, so you know that, like if you're surfing your Facebook feed or Twitter feed or just stuff popping up, right? Google does that too, where if you go to a partner affiliated site, you just get display ads, popped up banner ads. But if you search for something in Google and you get the results, sometimes you get ads there too. Mm-hmm. So you can target your advertising to only appear when people are searching for the problem.
Yes. Very targeted.
Difference between almost 0% and 40% in that we caught the people who were actively seeking a solution to the problem.
And it was like,
and they're like, oh, right there,
That's awesome.
So
so prior to that, the experiment wasn't as good. You did a better experiment.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You don't do just one. You have to do multiple things. It's talking to customers. It's running ads. It's doing landing pages. It's cobbling together MVPs. It's paper prototyping. It's wireframing. It's trying more than one thing before you give up. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a perfect number of how many experiments you do before you before you kill it. Mm-hmm. But you can't just do one and then give up because you might be like one away.
Yes.
At the same time, you can't persevere blindly and ignore all the data and explain it away and just hope. I mean, that's why 2 of the startups I was at failed because we did that.
I see.
Interestingly enough, the one startup I was at that succeeded, we went from B2C to B2B because we realized these aren't our customers. These are our customers.
Pivoted to the right customer segment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why this stuff resonates so much with me because I lived it early startup life.
Yeah.
I got introduced to Agile. We had to pivot our startup from B2C to B2B, and it just really made me influence my thinking.
Yeah. And so the value of making safety a prerequisite, you said, fits pretty nicely with your work in terms of getting it. It sounds like you're hitting that from the culture side, which is, hey, executives, approach your team with questions rather than with thou shalt do this. Mm-hmm. That kind of a thing. Is that there?
Leading with questions versus giving the benefit of their opinion.
Yeah. And
then having the team take that as a command and execute on it.
And what about make people awesome in terms of like your customers trying to speak to that a little bit? Does that resonate, or is it a little bit awkward as a fit for what you do? Or
I think there's 2 sides of it. There's the make people awesome in that I'm trying to help people become really trying to build out an entrepreneurship capability inside companies.
Right.
Which up until now, if you're really creative and with the scarcity of resources and you pull something off, sometimes you're reprimanded for that, or sometimes it's frowned upon. And so I believe corporations have entrepreneurs in there. They're just not necessarily celebrated.
Right.
And they might not
entrepreneurs.
They might not wear dress like we do out here. So
not like I do.
So anyway, my point being, they're there. Give them a chance. So you can make them awesome by putting them in situations where their superpowers are kind of elevated to, hey, we're trying to create something new.
Right.
Here's your opportunity to run with this and have a team and do it.
And you're giving them superpowers by teaching them all these fast fail techniques, all of these ways to look at data, to focus quickly on discovering whether or not there's a real product to build and so forth.
Right. You have to be careful in that you don't limit your vision based on only the experiments you know how to run. So if you only know how to do landing pages, right, and you try to experiment everything with just a landing page, there's limited returns on that. You need to be able to do other things.
Sure.
So I come in and say, here are some other options you have based on your context.
Gotcha.
And then the customer's point of view, I mean, I really want, I want to increase speed to customer delight. So I want to help customers, like real problems, actually solve them instead of just putting something beautiful in front of them that doesn't
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
So we're trying to make them awesome this way. So I feel like there are two sides.
So speed to delight.
Yes.
This is a nice term. That is the intent of make people awesome, is you're trying to focus on what is that delight? What is that superpower that I can give to my customer? And whether that's your customer internally as an entrepreneur or it's whatever they're going to make that they provide to their customers, what is that? What's that thing that is going to delight them and give them an ability to do something they couldn't do before? That's important to kind of know what that is. Although we never quite know what that is, right? It's a discovery process.
Yeah. I mean, if we don't know what the problem is, it's really tough to solve it, right? So I learned Agile by, okay, we think we know the problem and then we don't know the solution. So Agile there, I think, makes so much sense because you iterate through the solution.
Yes.
But if you don't know the problem,
yeah.
What do you do? I mean, and that's why some of these principles, I think, apply there with continuous discovery and customer development, customer discovery, lean startup, design thinking, all this kind of mashed up into do we know enough about the problem?
Yeah. Now, opportunity canvases, is that something you do?
I like that. That's Jeff Patton stuff.
Oh, it's Jeff Patton. Okay.
I do a lot of assumption mapping. It's layered in on top of canvases.
So tell me, what's an assumption map?
Yeah, it's just something I've been working on over the years and kind of standing on the shoulders of giants. When I first started off, so working with like Jeff Gothelf and Gift Constable back at Neo, I realized, hey, we have some ways of having conversations about assumptions that maybe we didn't have before.
Assumptions about your product?
Yeah, or a feature even. I focus more on product and business just because I'm on new product development, new business development. So, and then I noticed we don't have a great way of seeing where to focus though. So there's 2x2s, but at the same time, the 2x2s worked to an extent, but then they had a list of questions, but then the questions, they weren't, people would just stack rank them. And so I was just and I was learning about design thinking. So I kind of mashed this all up together into, hey, can we talk about, is this desirable, viable, or feasible? So that's how I frame my assumptions.
Desirable, viable, or feasible.
Do people want this? Is it solving a real problem? Viability? Is it a viable thing to work on? Should we be working on it? And then feasibility, can we actually execute on it from an engineering and regulatory perspective?
So you map these assumptions out.
Yeah, so the teams, I'm just asking them questions like, who is your customer? And what is our revenue model? And why do we have the right team to build this? And then mapping them out, and the team comes to this epiphany where they say, oh, wow, we don't know anything about our customer, but that's really important for us to succeed. So we have no idea what our business model is, right? So I don't tell them. I'm more trick them, I guess.
Let the light bulbs go off into what do we really need to learn.
Yeah, and so I was like, let's experiment there. Let's not focus on these known and unimportant things to experiment on right away. Let's focus on the unknown, really important stuff.
So assumption mapping helps lead you into better experimentation. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I use it as a focusing mechanism for experimentation.
I see.
And to get people to talk.
That's very nice.
If I think this is completely known and you think it's completely unknown, we should probably have a conversation about why our point of views are very different.
Awesome. I love that. Yes.
So I get product design engineering together to do that. I love it.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, it's kind of went viral. It's used all over the world now. It's pretty
that's
amazing.
Really cool. Is there a specific template is there I know the business model canvas has got the various boxes. It's not like that or
it's I have a template of how to facilitate it, how to do it on my site on precoil.com. And in videos, I just want people to run with it.
Well, we'll put a link into that in the video notes. And awesome. Anything else to tell us about?
Oh, geez. I just feel like it's a really exciting time to work in tech, and it's just been so much fun for me to work with companies that aren't really software companies. Yeah,
no, that's great. I mean, bringing an entrepreneurial capacity into these companies that should be entrepreneurial, but maybe have lost that in terms of being so decades old or whatever is very exciting. You're making entrepreneurs into actual functioning entrepreneurs inside the company, right?
Yeah, and so I'm looking forward to our next challenges of, let's say when we're growing these and they're successful, how do we nurture that? And that's the next challenge, right? That's why these labs get shut down, because they can't be realized by the corporation. So how do I build that bridge, and how do we make sure these things don't just die? I think that's my focus as well, because I want people to do meaningful work, but I also want it to be recognized. So
yeah. I mean, a company ledger that says, hey, we just saved $20 million by not building this piece of software that or this product that you demonstrated with data that was never going to be adopted. That's very important value, delivery. So
Yeah.
very cool. Well, thank you for coming to the show, and
Awesome.
yeah, thanks again for watching. We'll provide some links to some of David's stuff, and see you for the next show. Please share this with others and point them to the Modern Agile Show. Thanks for watching.